So we know that building has huge impact on the environment. It's estimated that 40% of global carbon emissions arise from built environment. And that's a combination of the materials used, demolition, transportation, and then the replacement. There's then the ongoing energy consumption of the actual buildings once they've been constructed, such as heating, cooling, and lighting. This has led to an increase in regulations, which have imposed mandatory obligations on property owners, occupiers, and developers, with the aim to minimise the environmental impact. The overarching aim is to reduce the impact on the planet. We're able to provide support so you can understand clearly your legal obligations and how that might impact on your business. We also will ensure that any legal documents fit in and work hand in hand with your ESG strategies. We also work with specialist search providers who provide information so we can give specific advice in respect of any climate risks and how that may impact on your property investments.
We do a lot of work with developers and contractors, and we're trying to help them to achieve their aims of achieving more sustainable ways of building. We've got clients who are looking to build properties to the Passive House standard, so commercial buildings and residential. Passive House is a way of achieving a very low carbon footprint for a building. But we also try to explain to clients and make them understand that the operational carbon, so the carbon that's being used when a building is in operation, isn't the only factor to consider. They also need to look at what we call embodied carbon. So sometimes knocking a building down and rebuilding something new isn't always the best option, even if the end result uses less energy, because the amount of energy and resources that are used to actually knock a building down and rebuild can be quite considerable. So it's just that piece to make them understand at an early stage what the different options are. Of course, when it comes to then actually doing the work, help them to ensure that their contractual obligations are all set out in a way that they can actually achieve their aims.
In 2018, we had the introduction of the minimum energy efficiency standards. Those required that a landlord who wanted to grant a lease of commercial property had to ensure that that property had a rating of at least an E or above. Now, April 2023 extended those regulations so that a landlord could not continue to let a property unless it had at least the minimum rating. Now, that's currently an E still, but the intention is that that will be increased in line with net zero goals. Now, this has really led to a greater focus on green provisions within leases, and green provisions are essentially just a commitment between the parties to find ways to manage and minimise environmental impact. Now, our real estate team here have helped clients devise particular provisions which suit their particular circumstances, align with their strategies, and also take practical considerations into account, such as costs and so on. These clauses have covered things like where you have a building that's been specifically designed and developed with high energy performance in mind. It can help to protect that status. Include provisions which cover minor improvements to existing buildings, prevent the negative impacts of works on particular premises, and it can also cover a whole host of other things other than energy performance alone. For example, we've advised on terms which require parties to share data and to act together in terms of best practice, waste management provisions and the use of sustainable materials, and we've also advised on dilapidations provisions which have a more circular effect.